It's Friday, February 3rd, and time for your Barbados Today morning update. Thanks for joining us. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. We begin with a strong word of assurance from the Central Bank Governor, Dr. Delisle Worrell, that devaluation is definitely not on the cards for Barbados. Worrell gave this solemn promise last night during an economic forum hosted by the country's premier financial institution. In recent times, there's been a concern that the local currency, which is pegged 2-to-1 to the US dollar, is on the brink of being devalued. However, Worrell insists this is simply not the case.
We are a long way from the possibility of devaluation, but the question is that if we don't stop eroding the foreign exchange, we will get it. And the reason is that the foreign reserve is what protects us from devaluation. Because I am still in the position where the central bank is able to reassure all Barbadians that if you have a legitimate need for foreign exchange, and foreign exchange, you can't get that foreign exchange anywhere else within the system, I will sell you that foreign exchange, and I will sell you at what rate? 2-to-1.
Also on the panel was President of the Barbados Bankers Association, Donna Wellington, who also cautioned that devaluation would not work for the island. In fact, she suggested that it would do more harm than good.
I agree with the governor. This should be way at the back of the pack, any thought of devaluation, because it doesn't profit Barbados at all. There have been people who have said things like, if we were devalued, we would become more efficient from a tourism perspective. I don't share that view at all, simply because of the reasons we've said before. We are an import economy, and if we are importing food and beverages and everything for the hotel, it is very difficult to see how devaluing the dollar would not just inflate every cost we had, and then the cost of a hotel stay would increase. It doesn't work if you do it that way. However, there are things that we need to look at. One is the level of debt that we have and the interest cost that we bear on that debt. That needs to reduce, and significantly so.
Meantime, it's becoming harder for Barbadians to earn any form of interest on their domestic savings accounts. A day after CIBC First Caribbean officially slashed its deposits rates to between 0.5 and 0.15%, local customers of Royal Bank of Canada say they have also been put on notice that their savings rate is about to hit an all-time low of 0.01%. The RBC changes take effect on March 1. However, former president of the Barbados Bankers Association, Horace Cobham, suggests it may be time for the central bank to step back in and regulate the banking sector.
Perhaps there's a need for some halfway house where there's some minimum rate of return. The truth of the matter is that I think too often it becomes self-interest, and oftentimes you got force banks to do what is right in small economies like they exist in the Caribbean. So there should probably be some minimum. It probably isn't 3%. It probably might be closer to 1%, and the central bank perhaps need to think long and hard about limiting commercial banks in terms of their rates of return. That might be a government policy.
Prior to April 2015, local depositors were guaranteed a minimum interest rate on their savings of 2.5% until the central bank decided to abolish that rate. In other news, this Friday, investigations are continuing into the latest shooting, which left an 18-year-old man nursing several gunshot injuries at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Michael Omar Edwards of Bartlett Tenantry, Sergeant's Village, Christchurch, was shot multiple times in his upper body by two masked men who then ran away.
Our preliminary investigations are suggesting that the young man was at his residence when two masked armed men entered onto his premises and shot him multiple times about the body. He has been rushed to the QEH by ambulance for medical attention. Our investigations are continuing.
That was police spokesman acting Inspector Roland Cobbler, who later revealed that Edwards was in serious but stable condition. And he's asking anyone with information on the incident to call police emergency number 211, Crime Stoppers at 1-800-8477 or the nearest police station. In sports, Springer Memorial are one step closer to adding yet another trophy to their already heavy-laden cabinet after advancing into the Massey United Insurance Senior Girls Basketball Competition. The defending champions had home court advantage against Christchurch Foundation, who were defeated 33-22 with the quarter scores reading 13-1, 19-6, and 21-9. Springer Memorial dominated the proceedings throughout the match. Junior national basketballer Roshana Thorne top scored with 12 points and was the only player to reach double figures.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Read all about it, read all about it. Get your paper, only $2.25. Let's get your paper.
You again with that stale news from yesterday. I got the Barbados today on my phone and I just get my news for free.
What do she?
The Barbados Today, news you can trust.
In news from the regional scene, more than 21 alleged police shootings are under review in St. Lucia. Word of this from the island's Director of Public Prosecutions. We get more in this report from HTS News Force.
The Director of Public Prosecutions says there are over 21 alleged police shootings under review by his office, all active cases. He says he has mapped out a way forward for the majority of those cases and in some instances has written to the Commissioner of Police expressing his opinion on them. He, however, asks for patience as the investigative process takes its course.
I must state that many of these matters are still incomplete in terms of the criminal investigations, and as such I cannot disclose details of any findings of what in particular is missing from these investigations, etc., as this would only prejudice the due process, right, that is expected in these matters. And I hope that everyone can appreciate that.
The DPP would not say much on issues that touch on the impacts investigation into the alleged police killings of 2010-2011. He rebuffed questions on talk that evidence remains in Jamaica and would only say that his office has a plan to tackle the issue but needs the public to be patient in this matter.
And on the international scene, fresh reports that Washington is considering additional sanctions on Iranian entities on the orders that predated President Donald Trump.
CNN has learned the Trump administration is planning to impose additional sanctions on Iran, penalties already allowed under previous executive actions. The administration's strong reaction after Iran launched another ballistic missile Sunday, not violating the Iran nuclear deal, but defying a UN resolution. Trump laying out his hardline approach to world hotspots today at the National Prayer Breakfast.
The world is in trouble, but we're going to straighten it out, okay? That's what I do. I fix things. We have to be tough. It's time we're going to be a little tough, folks. We're taken advantage of by every nation in the world virtually. It's not going to happen anymore.
Those comments hours after these tweets. Iran has been formally put on notice for firing a ballistic missile. Should have been thankful for the terrible deal the U.S. made with them. Also, Iran is rapidly taking over more and more of Iraq, even after the U.S. has squandered $3 trillion there. Obvious long ago. Tonight, Iran is firing back with its own tough response, vowing to vigorously continue its missile tests, saying they're purely for defense purposes. A senior advisor to Iran's supreme leader adding that President Trump should not, quote, make a toy out of himself with his extremism and baseless ranting. The U.S. will be the final loser.
And that report from the CNN brings us to the end of our Barbados Today morning news update. But for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. Also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals or screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you, as well as Channel 99 on Flow TV and Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Do have a fabulous Friday.